So last year, roughly 32 million people took a cruise. And that's a record. And to put that in perspective, that's almost the entire population of California, all deciding that a ship was the best way to see the world. Pretty incredible. We're not going to talk about what the environmental impact of that is. So we'll keep that on the down low. But yeah. Now, wait a minute. If we had an outside speaker, would y'all act like this?
Yeah, I need to hear this. Come on now.
All right. So, despite that, there are people that say cruising's not for me, and they think of the way cruising used to be. Things have changed. I mean, it's a different world. First of all, how many here have never been on a cruise? Anybody? Rich, Papa G. Okay. All righty. Well, as you know, Cindy and I have been cruising for years. And we've seen the French Polynesia. We've seen the Galapagos. We've seen Machu Picchu. We've been to Europe. We've been to Italy. And this was all just since we were married. Before I married her, I'd been to Canada and Mexico. So she's taken me around the world. And it's just incredible. And as you know, that we started doing so much of it, and people were asking me that I became a travel advisor. I want to tell you that I would prefer, I know this is crazy, for you not to refer me as a travel advisor, because I don't want it to be a job. I want to help people I know, and I love doing that. But I don't need more business. The exciting thing is I've been doing this since March last year. What is that, just like 15 months at the most? And I booked over $320,000 of commissionable bookings in that time. It just blows me away. So for the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through what the cruising industry looks like today, some ways that if you do want to do cruising, how you can save money, and some things you might not think about. Because you can go around the world. You can go on the Zodiac in the Arctic or the Antarctica. There's all kinds of things you can do. So the first thing, I want to talk about what you can expect. At its core, a cruise is where one price gets you a room, gets your meals, and gets you entertainment every night. So think about that. If you're staying in a hotel, paying for entertainment, paying for your food, that's all included. And not all, but most all cruise lines, that's including. And transportation between the destinations you want to see, all included. You unpack once. That's what Cindy and I love about cruising. And there's nothing, for me, worse opening your suitcase, pulling out a t-shirt, and then closing the suitcase and going to another place. We love unpacking, setting all up, getting on the cruise ship, and then seeing many, many places. So that's pretty cool. And you wake up somewhere new most mornings. Could be a different country. The ship does the driving. Now, there are extras when you go on a cruise, and this is where you need to pay attention if you're looking at going on a cruising. Because there's drinks, not only alcoholic beverages, but sodas, coffees, teas, specialty drinks, things like that. There's specialty restaurants. If you've cruised lately, you know that that's a big income source for cruise ships now. The newer cruise ships have specialty restaurants galore where it costs extra to go to those restaurants. Usually a pretty good deal, and the food's outstanding in most cases, but that's an extra expense. There's tips. Every cruise line will charge you tips. They're your discretion, but they're going to charge you unless you say no. And then you can also tip extra on top of that. There's excursions that you pay extra for, going in to see things. So there's lot of things. The main ships, the mainline ships, the big companies, almost all of that is a la carte. You pay as you go along. As you go up the level, and we're going to talk about different levels of cruising, a lot more of those are included in your price. So the biggest first-time surprise for people, first-time cruisers, is a sea day. And the thing a lot of people worry about is, what are we going to do? We're all day on the sea. Karaoke. You can go hear Don in the karaoke bar. But the cruise ship is the destination. I mean, Cindy and I love, we've spent 6, 7 days in a row at sea and have never get bored. There's so many things to do on board. And just to relax, what both of us have realized just recently, particularly, is the thing about being on a cruise, and this is really any vacation, but being out on the ocean is you're not responsible for anybody else. You know, there's not Rotarians calling you to do something, you know, you just kind of out of it and you can really relax. And I really love that. But one of the things that a myth I would like to bust is that a cruise ship is just one big buffet line and a shuffleboard court. I don't know if you can find shuffleboard on most cruise ships anymore. And the food, in most cases, is spectacular. And people talk about, oh, don't you gain a lot of weight on cruises? Well, let me tell you, that's usually not the case because if you make a commitment not to use the elevators or as little as possible, use the stairs. And the thing about you have so many choices, it's so much easier to make healthy choices. The problem with healthy choices here at home is we have to prepare it, and it's hard to find restaurants that have healthy choices. But when you're in the buffet, you can go get as much salad, you can get fish, you know, all the healthy things, and it's easier to make that decision. I'm going to eat healthy today until the dessert cart comes by. That's a different question. The gelato is very healthy. So let's actually talk about the cost and the different type of cruising there is. So there's a range. There's no single answer to how much will a cruise cost or what's a cruise like. You can go from, it's like asking when motel, what's the difference between a Courtyard and a Four Seasons? They're both hotels. They both have a bed and pillow, but I think the experience is a little different, right? So, a Carnival ship and a seaborne yacht are both cruises, whole totally different experience. Totally different experience. So I'm going to walk you through the whole spectrum, so at least you kind of know. So your main line, this is the main market. Contemporary cruises are, who can name the mainline cruise lines? Royal Caribbean? No, no. Royal Caribbean, Norwegian, and Carnival, and MSC. Those are the 4 main ones. The big difference there is MSC is the only cruise line that is privately owned. It's a huge corporation. If you've ever been in any port, you'll see the big container ships that will say MSC on the side. That stands for Mediterranean Shipping Company. They own that family. It's family owned for generations. They started a cruise company several years ago, and now MSC has a big presence in the United States. They just built a huge port in Miami, built a huge port in Galveston, and they're the cheapest. If you want to go on the cheapest, and it's not a bad cruise either. The reason MSC is getting all the publicity now, they're beautiful ships, but they're much less expensive because they do not have stockholders to answer to. It's a privately owned firm. The problem with MSC is because they're so much less expensive, they're packed and sometimes the food isn't as good, but the ships are beautiful. But they do have a part of the ship called the Yacht Club. That's a little more expensive, but it's a private, it's like a ship inside of a ship. You have a butler, But even then, that's less expensive a lot of times than even going on like Celebrity or some of those ships. So that's the main line. Almost everything's a la carte. Huge ships. MSC has a brand new one coming out that has a complete theme park on it. They have inside malls, they have gardens, hundreds of restaurants, big things. Not my cup of tea, but great for families. Then there's premium. So we heard some of the premium lines, Celebrity, Holland America, and Princess are the three main premium lines that people think about. They're a little level up. They're all owned by these other major cruise lines. They're just a different part of the company. The food's better. They cost a little more. The experience is a little nicer. The entertainment's better. And the ships, in some cases, are better, but not always. So Holland America has a whole different vibe than Princess. Princess has a different vibe. Now, Princess has different types of ships, and they kind of have different vibes between the ships. And same with Celebrity. We've done Princess, Celebrity, and Holland America. And all three of them are great. Music is outstanding. If you want to go music, Holland America is amazing. They have the music walk where they have the Rolling Stone Cafe, rock bands. They have dueling pianos. They have some classical, and then they have B.B. King Blues Club. So they have a blues band, and they bring in incredible musicians. So great things like that. Then let's talk about luxury and ultra luxury. Luxury are ships, are companies like Viking Ocean, Azamara, Oceania. So they're more expensive than the Princess and Celebrity, but there's more included. Almost all those, not all, but almost includes your gratuities. Viking, I don't think includes gratuities, but Viking includes one free shore excursion in every port. They all include at least some food and beverage. The Viking does beer and wine at your dinners. Azamara, your basic alcohol package comes with it, and same with Oceania. Food is really good. Ships are normally smaller. The main line, you're looking at 3,000 to 6,000 people on the ship. For the premium line, Holland America, Celebrity, you're looking at 1,500 to 3,100 on the ship. For Viking, Azamara, Oceania, you're looking at 600 to 1,200 on the ship. But what's more important is the space per passenger. If you've been on a cruise ship, you know sometimes it's hard to get a lounge by the pool. People get out there at 4 o'clock in the morning and put their pal down or a book. If you go on Azamara, Oceania, Viking, you never have that problem. There's no lines. You can always find a place to sit. So it's really a different experience. Then there's ultra luxury. Ultra luxury is Regent Seven Seas, Silver Seas, and Seabourn are the main one. Again, and they're all owned by the mainline cruise companies. What? And Explora Journeys is a new luxury ship that I'm excited. We have one booked next year. I can't wait. It's the luxury brand of MSC Cruises. So they're just spectacular ships, and I'm looking forward to it. But they're in that luxury, the ultra luxury. People put them in different categories. And then there's outrageous luxury. You like Carnival. That's Ritz-Carlton. You know, Ritz-Carlton has a couple of yachts. Four Seasons just came out with their first yacht. My son looked into that. He said he found a 7-day Caribbean cruise on Four Seasons, $70,000 for entry level. And he said, I haven't researched this, but he said, your food isn't included. Food or drinks are not included. But they give you a $600 onboard credit to pay for the food you want to go to. Now you're looking at ships that hold like 125 to 200 people. So it's really like a yacht. Windstar is ultra luxury. I have a client leaving this week on their first Windstar. Windstar has some of the sailing yachts with the big, and they have between 120 to 250 passengers. So there's all kind of, and then there's uh, Havia and Hurtigruten. They're specialty ships that go up the coast of Norway. They're a totally different kind. And then you get into expedition cruises. Viking has 2 expedition. Denise is going to go on the Viking expedition coming soon, and I'm excited to get her feedback. Maybe she'll do a program on it. We have a good friend that we trade Greyhounds with who's a photographer for National Geographic. He goes on the Lindblad, which manages all the National Geographic ships. They're all small ships. That would be a good idea. So you can go to Alaska on the Lindblad, and one of their ships holds 50 people. The ship we went on, the Galapagos, was actually Celebrity. They have an expedition in Galapagos. That's the only place their expedition ships go. We had 44 people on the ship, and it was amazing. So these expeditions are, if you really want to see something, like in Antarctica, some of the big ships go to Antarctica, but you can't get off. You go by and wave at the penguins if you can see them. But Silver Sea, National Geographic, HX, a bunch of those are small ships. They give you the big parkas, the boots. You get on the Zodiac, you get out and you actually get on land. You do that in Alaska. You get on the Zodiacs, you get into these little rivers and streams that the ships can't get near. And they take you, they have a naturalist, and they take you through the wilderness. That's a spectacular trip. So as you can see, there's whole different ways to see different things. So let's talk about cost ranges. So for the contemporary lines, you're looking at $100 to $200 a day per person. So if you just want to kind of, then there's extras because there's a lot of a la carte. For the premium, you're looking at $200 to $400 a day. And then, because cruises can be as short as 3 days and as long as, I was just looking, I haven't booked it yet, but one person that's looking at a 170-day cruise. That's a few $100s. The luxury can be between $400 and $1,000 a night per person. The expedition cruises can be $500 to $1,500 a night. That's very varied depending on the experience you want there. And then there's river cruising. Who has been on a river cruise? Oh, a lot of people. River cruising is a whole different animal. Ships are smaller, between 100 to 200 people. They go down the rivers of Europe, in China, Vietnam, Africa. There are all kinds of things on river cruises, and they're all varied. And they're between $300 and $600 a night per person. It's a whole different experience. I found Cindy and I, we've gone on one river cruise, and we were exhausted because you're right in town and you're going, you want to see all the towns. You get off the ship and you walk around. You've been over there, you go. Amas are great. Yeah. So a lot of neat things there, the cruising. So there's 2 strategies worth knowing about when it comes to cruising. Number 1 is the shoulder season. So who can explain what a shoulder season is in travel? Anybody know? Go ahead, Jackie, because I can't find my notes.
So either just the end of the main summer travel season was at the end, so like mid-September. And then the other end of the shoulder season is just before summer skims. It might be March, something like that. Is that correct?
So it depends on the shoulder season, as she said, is when The weather is changing, so it's a little iffy on weather, and the crowds are less. One of the things you might run into is some of the places might be closing down or they might not be open on weekends. Cindy and I, our first Alaska cruise, we were the last cruise in that port for the season, which was at the end of August. There's a few Alaska cruises in September, most of them end in August, and our ship broke, so we were in port for 3 days. And the shop stayed open. They were going to close the day we were going to take off, but they got to know everybody on board because we didn't have anywhere else to go. But shoulder season can be 30 to 70% less expensive than any other cruise time. And the crowds are less. So we really like shoulder season. That's the next thing, Cindy, the repositioning cruises. Repositioning cruises are almost always in shoulder season. All that means is a company is moving their ships, like from the Mediterranean to the Caribbean. The Caribbean is the biggest cruising area in the world. It's the least expensive area in the world. But they're moving a lot of ships from Mediterranean, and it saves you a lot of money because you don't have to fly one way. We've done several repositioning cruises, really good deals. You can make great deals on repositioning cruises, 50, 60% off of the normal. It's a great way to try a luxury line, brings it back into a budget that you normally couldn't do, or a ship that you didn't think you could do. You have a lot less ports, so the destination is the ship. You have to know that you're going to have to keep yourself entertained, and there's all kinds of things going on. Then there's food and good things going on the ship. Some people don't like sea days. Cindy and I love sea days. We went from, this wasn't necessarily a repositioning cruise, but it was a Trans-Pacific. We went from LA to Hawaii to Bora Bora, Tahiti, Moorea, and then all the way back to LA. And that's our first long cruise. Yes. Yes. So it depends. Like we did a repositioning cruise a couple of years ago that started in Venice, sorry, in Venice. And we made several Mediterranean stops before we came across and ended in Fort Lauderdale. Next spring, we're going the other way. We're going from Florida to Europe. We're going to end in Barcelona, but we're going to stop, I think, at the Canary Islands or something along that way. And then we're going to get on that Explorer journey, that small ship, and do a 7-day Mediterranean. This October, we're starting in Greece. We've never been to Greece on Princess. And then we have several stops in the Mediterranean, and we go across to the Canary Islands, and then we go to Bermuda, and then we come back. So yes, you do have stops, but you have at least a minimum of 7 or 6 or 7 sea days, sometimes more in a row. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah. So if you don't have trouble, seasickness is something that a lot of people worry about. Most ships now have great stabilizers. Some people are more prone, but there are doctors on board, and there's medicine and things you can do for seasickness. But yeah, and if you can get, and this is where a travel advisor can help you. If you get a room in the mid part of the ship and lower on the lower deck, you're going to have a lot less movement. So that's always a good thing to look for. But some people like, if they don't get seasick, some people like the aft of the ship so they can look out. Some like the forward of the ship. And it's all priced accordingly to where your cabin is. Some things to look out for. We learned this the hard way. You want to make sure you don't have a cabin that's right underneath the buffet or the nightclub, because you can hear them moving chairs and things at night. Or you don't want to be above a public space. So things to look out for there. Yeah. Most cases, not all, most cases, entertainment is forward, food is aft. So if food is more important, you're at the aft. If entertainment is more important, being in the middle, you're kind of halfway between each one. I'm sorry? Entertainment normally in the front, food in the back.
Yeah, so that's.
Yeah, but you can be on the level down. Yeah, and we've been on both front and back, and there's different levels. There anything from inside stateroom, and I will tell you, there's nothing wrong with an inside stateroom. You can save a lot of money. A lot of people say we don't go on a cruise to stay in our stateroom anyway. We're actually doing a transatlantic this August on the inside stateroom from Copenhagen all the way to Iceland. Yes.
Like the inside staterooms are the best because if they're dark,
Yeah.
Temperature really cool, whatever it is. Yeah, you don't feel anything.
And I love taking naps, so an inside stateroom is great.
Daylight, except for maybe 3 hours a day. Get it inside stateroom, they could eat your sleep.
Yeah, that's the best.
So yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. And going through, and this is not a plug for me, but as you're talking to friends, there is no drawback of using a travel advisor. There's only plus. You're going to get the exact same prices. Your loyalty continues through a travel agent. The cruise lines like working with travel agents because they're more loyal to certain cruises. And you can, in most cases, you can get extra perks. I think the minimum I've gotten is like $50 onboard credit per person or per stateroom, up to $200 or $300 onboard credit. What an onboard credit is, they don't give you cash, but it's money you can use on board for your excursions, for your drinks, your internet. Internet is the other thing. Some cruises, internet is included on the luxury cruises, some luxury cruises, but you're almost always going to pay internet, and the internet is very expensive on cruise ships because it's a great resource for them. It's getting better since they have Starlink. Starlink is getting a lot better. You can always get basic service, which is like 5 megabytes per second, or you can get streaming, which is 10 megabytes per second. So anyway, but there's a lot of YouTubers now that are on cruising that actually can upload using the internet. So it's gotten a lot better. So a lot of neat things going on in the cruising industry. And to tell you that the newer ships, especially the luxury ships, are getting very environmentally, some of the new ones are powered by liquid natural gas. The Explorer Journeys are actually making their newest ship is a little bigger, so when the next generation of efficient power comes out, they would have room to add it to the ship. A lot of areas like Norway and up that way are putting a kibosh on the big cruise ships. Some of the places you have to be 1,000 passengers or less, or you can't even come into port. Some places are limited how many people per day can come into port. Unfortunately, I'll tell you, especially on the big cruise ships in the Caribbean, you really don't get much experience of Caribbean when you go to the Caribbean anymore, because this is not necessarily bad. All the major cruise lines have their own islands now. That's a big revenue generator for them. And the islands are beautiful, and there's a lot going on. Even when you go to some of the where the big docks are, like in Cozumel and places like that, almost everything you're going to walk to is all focused on the cruise ship. So you're not getting the Caribbean life. You almost have to be in a smaller ship where you can stay overnight and experience if you want to get the Caribbean life. Some of the small ships go to islands that the big ships don't go to, which are pretty cool, like St. John's. There's a couple of ships that will actually go to St. John's. All the other ships, you have to get a boat during the day to go over to St. John's. Okay? Any other questions on cruises? Yeah, that was, I'm glad you brought that up. What that was an extension to our cruise through the cruise lines. Most, especially the luxury lines, will do a post or pre-cruise land tour. I think Bill did that in Hawaii. They did what, 2 days or 3 days? That the cruise line, it's all part of the same package. We did that in South Africa. That's when we went on our safari and olive tasting and wine tasting. And then the celebrity was a whole week after that. The other thing working with a travel advisor is they can do special things for you. So I have clients this month going to Alaska, and the thing that you're going to find, McMillan's, is little tips like this. These are magnetic hooks with a swivel on them. There's 4 of them. Almost all cruise ship walls are metal. So these are a great thing when you go on a trip. You stick them on the wall, you have places to hang your purse or your hat or your backpack, your coats, your robes.
Is Jackie gonna hang me on one of
That she, the steward will come in and there's Don hanging on. Get me down, please. And also, Cindy found this on our last trip. You know how when you try to take a coffee cup or something to the airport and you got your bags and you're spilling coffee? This goes around your handle of the bag and can hold 2 cups plus a pocket for your passport or wallet. So when you go through the security line, you just put it in there and it goes through. So, and I have magnets for Susan and Cal that I'm giving y'all. So this one's for y'all and one's for Susan and Cal. Yes, this is your gift. Susan and Cal didn't get one of these because I only have one right now.
Speaker's gift with you today?
For me. Any questions? We have a couple of minutes for questions before we do the drawing. We have 4 minutes. Any other questions? Yes.
You know, when you travel these days, especially if you're going, on shore, anywhere, your pickpockets are out there. And of course, this is valuable, but this is really valuable.
Yes.
So I just read an article about thieves. Whenever you pull it out, you're like waving money to the thieves. So be mindful of that. I was in a little outdoor cafe in Milan a couple of years ago. Cindy and I were having dinner, and I just had my phone on the table. Well, right beyond the little gate was the sidewalk, and the server was a really good guy. He said, "Sir, search it." That's thank you. I put it away because thieves don't grab it and go. And I lost my phone, not this one, but a previous phone when I was mountain biking out near Zion a couple of years ago. And when you don't have your phone, especially when you're in the wilderness, but when you are lost. So just I'm trying to be so mindful. It's a lot, you get this, you can call credit card companies, you might do some cash. This, of course, people have wallets on it, and there's all that, we're holding these little, they're not phones.
That's right. Cindy had somebody's hand in her pocket in Africa grabbing her phone, and she stopped them.
When you're on lock screen, you can pull down this to turn off your airplane mode, because the first thing they'll do is put your phone on airplane mode, which you don't have to unlock the phone to do. Then you can't track your phone.
Yeah.
So if you disable your airplane mode from the drop down menu, then you can track your phone. That's the first thing they'll do.
Interesting. Okay. The other thing I'll just mention, always look into travel insurance when you go overseas, particularly. Not necessarily, it's good to have insurance if you have to cancel your trip for medical reasons, but your medical insurance in the US will not cover you overseas, and evacuation insurance. So make sure you have something, because if you break a leg, simple as that, or something more, and you have to get back to the US, it can be extremely expensive. Sir. Yes, we've had good experience with insurance that have reimbursed us for, I had a sinus infection, and it's not cheap on the ship to go see the doctor, and it reimbursed every penny of that. Okay, you may take that number? All right,